for this tutorial, I'm working on a portrait of a little dog called Small, and here are some of the photos that her owner has sent in. So what you should know about when I select a photo for a painting is that I try to make it easy on myself and I just pick the best photograph from the ones sent in. And then basically I just interpret that into a painting. If requested, or if I want the dog to be posed in a certain way, I might do some sketching or some extensive editing in Photoshop to produce something more unique which will serve as my reference. But for this tutorial, we'll keep things simple, so I'll be looking for a photo that will require minimal editing. Let's take a look at the first photograph. This one is a nice photograph. I think Small is still quite young here. For use as a reference photo, I think the pose is just too symmetrical because we're looking at the face almost full on from the front. There's also not much of interest going on with the lighting, so it's not my first pick for a reference photo. In this second photo, the dog is just walking along, not looking at the camera, so there's no interaction with the viewer, which for a portrait is something I prefer. The face is also very dark and you can't see much detail, and it's also very low resolution, this photograph, so it would be difficult to edit this to enhance the details. So again, for the pet portrait that I'm planning, not my first choice. Moving along in this third photograph, Small is showing me a very nice smile. She looks very happy here. The light on the face is also pretty good, although it's a shame that there's a little bit of distortion due to the angle at which it was taken. I will keep this in mind, but I still want to look at one more photograph before I make my choice. In this last photo, everything works for me in this one. The dog is smiling. We're looking at the face from slightly the side, so it's not too symmetrical. The lighting is good and we have some good contrast between light and dark areas. It's also a high resolution photo, so it will be easy to do some editing on this without losing detail. Although I will have to edit out the background in this one. So this is the photo that I'm going with, and first thing I do is crop it to the size that I want. I'll be working on a 5 by 7 inch sized painting in this one. I also tilt and move things around a bit to see what looks good, and then after that, although I probably should have cleaned up the background first, but anyway, what I'm doing here in Photoshop is I'm playing with things like contrast, saturation, adjustments in the shadows and highlights, and also the color balance with the intention of enhancing the image as much as possible while preserving the details, especially the details in the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So I'm not going to give you the step-by-step for how I achieve this in Photoshop exactly, because really I just basically mess around with the adjustments and make occasional use of some filters. And that process is going to vary from photo to photo, so it's going to be different every time. So I am working a little bit backwards here. What I should have done was to edit out the background first and then enhance the image, but so what I'm doing is the reverse of that. I'm cleaning out all of what I don't need, and then I'm going to replace that with a plain colored background. And then once I have everything cleaned up, I'm also going to paint in a few of the details of the body. So what you have to remember about this photo that I'm editing is that I'm not trying to edit it to become something that's beautiful in itself and that I can maybe print out or display. I'm creating a reference for my painting, so it doesn't have to be the cleanest image in the end, and you have to keep in mind that it's only going to be a guide for some of the decisions you're going to make with color and lights and shadows in the painting that you're going to be doing. And now I'm done with editing. I'm going to save this image onto my phone, where I'm going to be using the Artist Grid app to lay a grid over this. And that's what will be my guide when I transfer the image onto a piece of watercolor paper. To do that, on my phone, I open the app and then open the edited photo in the app, and then I plug in the number of row lines that I want. So to produce a 5x7 square grid, I need 4 row lines. And I make sure to check the square grid cells option and then select the grid line opacity, thickness, and color that I want. And once that's applied, you end up with a square grid over the photo. Then I'm gonna save this file back onto my laptop so I have it on a larger screen, and I can now use it for a guide to copy this image down to my watercolor paper. So follow me to the next video so I can show you my process for that.